Hello? Okay, yeah. Okay, oh my God, I'm so flattered seeing so many people here. It's much better than my husband when he came last time. So I'm going to brag this evening. Yeah. So good afternoon. Yeah, thank you for coming to the talk. This is actually not a lecture per se. I assure you what I'm going to talk is not going to be rocket science. It is something you actually see, you interact, play with every day. Okay, yes, okay. So yeah, so hopefully it would be much easier than maybe some of your science project. Yeah. So let me briefly introduce myself. So first and foremost, I'm a proud parent of THIS. Both, yes. Both my son and my daughter, they joined the school last June. Relax, guys. I'm not going to mention your name to humiliate, embarrass you. Yeah. So yes, we are happy, so we actually really want to contribute what we know, to you guys, to share information with you guys. I actually went to college when I was 14 years old. Yeah, I joined a young gifted program in Jilin University, studied in math. So I actually first brought this up last June when I talked to my son, my daughter, and to my nephews. They were like, "Wow, this is cool. 你真是牛." They just start to learn Chinese at that time. Yeah. So I actually didn't consider myself cool or new or anything like that. The truth, I didn't tell them actually. I actually went to the program because I want to skip 2 years of high school. It is too tough. High school is too tough. So, I want to take a shortcut. I see some of you actually smiled. So maybe it's not that bad for you guys. So congratulations if that is the case. But if you do actually, if you are in high school, I understand how much workload you have and it could be painful, even I was a good student in high school. I chose to escape, 2 years. So what I end up with to take that shortcut, I actually end up spending more times in school. So because I went to that young program, I was labeled as young for many years. So they were like, you are too young to do anything except staying at school. So I studied all the way to get my math PhD. That is one, I think lessons learned from me, don't take shortcuts. There's no such thing, yeah. So I actually, another, could be, I guess it's the bad thing about that shortcut I took is I wasn't really that into math. I may be good at math, but I never really enjoyed and felt motivated by math. I never considered myself as mathematician. So I think fortunately after I got my PhD, I realized okay, I'm not going just to continue with a major I don't like. So I chose to, study a second major in United States. That is something I really felt connected in computer science. So I got my master in computer science. I almost get my second PhD in computer science. But at that time, again, I realized I don't want to go to academic. I am more interested in industry job. So which actually PhD is not necessary. It's just going to take more of my time. So I didn't get my second PhD. I end up being a researcher in Oracle and start my career there. I have been in Oracle for 17 years, I think. Yeah. So this is about me. And next, who never heard Oracle? I don't blame you because Oracle is not considered as cool or fun as Google, Facebook or Apple, but it is a big software giant. So it is the #1 database provider. Actually, I have a market share here. So I think this is something they did, I think, in a very authoritative database magazine back in 2017. So you see, Oracle actually owns both Oracle Relational Database and MySQL. So the top #2 database engines. And Oracle is the second largest enterprise software provider after SAP, which is a German company. Oracle is the third largest software maker in 2018 after Microsoft and Alphabet. It's a parent company of Google. So we have a huge market there. If you see the second one, the enterprise software provider. By enterprise software, I was referring to those big application that enterprise company would use for HR, for sales, for ERP, for financials. We have all of them, and all of them need friendly user interface and a fantastic user experience. This is normally how I work. Yeah, a computer, a phone. Make sure the phone is for calling, also for meetings, but also make sure whatever we develop, designed, works well on both mobile and desktop. So what exactly is user interface and user experience? You can see by these definitions, you are actually interacting or using interface every day by just sending a WeChat, by replying email, or even when you just turn on your laptop or your iPad, you are actually facing user interface and you are experience user experience. So yeah, it's really something you already considered so easy and a part of your life. But things wasn't the same back like in, I would say, 20, 25 years ago. I don't think you would believe that at that time, people would pay to send emails. People would pay somebody to get their salary slip printed out. And people would pay somebody to search for example, a sales contact. I actually, no joking, I actually paid somebody to send emails when I applied university in United States. Yeah. So yeah, I guess some of you may already start to think, wow, if you were born back then, forget about school. Who needs school? You can have a decent living just by sending WeChat or doing something, even playing games for somebody by earning the money, right? Yes, you missed that golden time. Yes. The truth is, yeah, I feel so bad for you. But the truth is, the truth is things wasn't that easy at all. People are no fools. They actually paid people because it was so hard to do. There was no or very little user interface or user experience involved. People did all those by command lines. Or people actually need to get special training to get a certificate in order to work or use a program, a software. I think it's hard for you to imagine that. Actually, in Oracle, even there is a shift of even in the culture, there is a shift. Like 20 years ago, we were so proud that our software is so hard, or in a good word, is so deep that people cannot just come in and use our software. They need special trainings. They need to, get a certificate to use Oracle software. Yeah, that is the reality, just like 20, 25 years ago. So what has been changed in those 20 years? Of course, the technology advances. And then another important part is the focus on user interface and the focus on having a fantastic user experience. So that is the key to bring those changes in the last 20 years. So, okay, so we have enough. We all know how important to have a high quality, easy to use, fantastic user experience. Where do we start? Of course, if you look at user interface, user experience, it's users, users, users. So in Oracle, we have this basic flow to design and develop a good UI and UX experience. So of course, as we just said, user is our focus, is the key here. So we need all kinds of information from the users, like before you start to develop an application, a software, or even just a single feature. Think about your user. Who are they? What are their roles? Where they are going to use your application or your page, because it all matters. If they use tablet, if they use a big display, if they use it inside, indoor, or they use it outdoor in a field, it all matters. And then of course you collect the user requirement from them, and you brainstorming what would bring them a good user experience. So all those things we need to do initially before we even start any real work. This is normally how we do it. We could even go to customer's website to do on-site interview. We could bring them, to do brainstorming, or we could have them, explain things they are doing today using their current software. What is the difficulty they run into, how they want to improve it. Great, we have all those user requirement, user information, and sometimes even suggestions from user how to do it right. This seems very easy, huh? We already got a lot of information. Wait, what happens is sometimes it's not their fault. Users doesn't know. Users don't know what they really want. So they tell you one thing, but in the real work, when they work on something, they may perform it differently. I think there's one, let me see. There's one experiment they did in US. So they have all those gems in convenience store. And they have a survey asking users, would they be more willing to buy jam if they have 30 different flavors versus if they have 6 flavors? Of course, everybody, I think almost everybody says, yeah, I will be more willing to buy jam if I have more options, if I have more flavors. And then they do the testing, bring in another set of users, and first have 30 flavors, the next day to 6 flavors, and then flip it. They found out, no, they actually buy more when they have 6 flavors. So it's people actually, I think from psychology, they already proved people actually tend, or it's easy for people to complete a task when they have less choices. So yeah, user research is necessary, but we cannot rely on what we get from users all the time. So that is why we need our own design philosophy. Those are some we followed primarily. The first, simplicity. Actually, those design philosophy not only applies to website or application design. I would say it applies to others, no matter if you design a boat, design a house. I think simplicity is the one that is very easy to say, but very hard to achieve. But before we talk about why we want it simple, again, like I talked, people actually don't want complex things. If you make your page very complex, if you give them many options, many things to look at in one page, in one design, their so-called cognitive load, I think, increase. And that actually downgrade their judgment, downgrade the time they take to finish a task. So the more complex design you give them, the less likely they are going to finish a task correctly. But again, like I said, simplicity, in design, it is very easy to add things. It's super hard to reduce things. We actually learned a very, bad lesson in Oracle. I think like before 7 years ago, our application just keep growing to the level like our customer doesn't like it. They run into competitors, even ourselves. We actually don't have a way to maintain it. It's got too heavy, performance is bad, the interface is too complicated. We couldn't even, make that fact application, reduce that fact application to make it simple, because anything we remove, somebody will start to scream, oh, I need that. There's always somebody need something. So we actually end up a very tough decision. We said that would be our legacy application. We start something new from scratch. And in this application, that was 2012. We already have big display. We already have dual monitors. But our decision at that time is we are going to develop this whole application based on fixed resolution, 1024 by 768. You can imagine some customers were like, you are crazy. I'm using dual monitors, and you actually fixed your application in 1024 by 768. That is more like a small island in the ocean. But we made that very firm. We said that is enough. That is the way we control our complexity, control our page load, make sure everything works, at least the most essential part works. And it indeed works. We actually was able to grow the whole application base from that, small project. And I was the one, leading the project, and it become, the base of the whole application suite. Every application family actually uptake that initial model, start to plug in their content. And, we actually indeed bring back our revenue just by that fixed screen resolution application. Of course, we couldn't resist long, we start to give in. Okay, we we extend our resolution to 1440 by 900, 1600, now up to dual monitors. But you can imagine, because we start something as simple, even with grow and with some control, it's still, so far, it's still manageable. But yeah, simplicity is very hard to achieve. People tend to add things, but not remove things. Intuitive, again, it is very, it just common sense, makes sense, right? Intuitive. You want to develop something intuitive to people. But you see this kind of case all the time, It is adults screaming for pulling, but the instruction said push. Yeah. So the result is, no matter how many signs you put there, no matter how big your signs are, people are always going to try to pull first. When it didn't work, then they start to look at the sign. So why don't they do that? Right? If this adult need to push, use the handle. I don't know how you describe that handle. There are handles actually help people to push. Yeah, so this kind of thing, we want to make sure we don't make these kind of stupid mistakes in our design. We actually don't fight with people's instinct, intuition. We work with those intuition. This is already the third one. Axiom. Axiom is different from people's intuition. It is something not intuitive, but it's something well accepted and well acknowledged and agree. People already consider that is somehow standard. So our philosophy is just follow them, unless you really have a good reason to change them. Don't be creative or, trying new things for those already established. For example, search box is always top right. There's other examples, logo is always on the top left. I think log out, log in normally on the top right. And I believe you also have copyright information at the bottom of your page. So those common things, again, unless you have special reason, don't change them, follow them. Of course, I have this picture here because there's more complexity about this scenario. We'll come back to this later. Yeah. So consistent is very important, for a company or software provider like Oracle, because we actually have, I think, more than 10,000 application pages. Not to say, if you violate axiom or not. If your application has one page, put a search button on the top left, another page, put a search button on the bottom left, you can imagine how confused that could leave user to. So that is why, yeah, consistent, we have to have it here. Even it is in the wrong position, even it is against axiom, against the intuitive, against simplicity, you have to have them be consistent. You cannot have one page design the same button here, another page go to somewhere else. So that is something we really, want to make sure, we get that consistency across our application. But of course, when you want to have consistency, sometimes it actually conflict with innovative. That is one challenge we are facing. Yeah. The next one also is very self-descriptive. Visual aesthetics. Yes, of course, you want your page to look beautiful, attractive, attract people to look at it, work on it. You want to make sure, yeah, the visual appearance is appealing. That is more like we leave it to visual designers. Yeah, fun and engaging. Yeah, animation. We see animation. We see animation everywhere already. I still put it here because I want to emphasize animation not only help users maintaining context. When you have something, let me see if I have it somewhere. Those are not like anything fancy or anything like that, but just things we see every day. But it helps users see, just this small interaction, pay something, then you got a confirmation, nice animation, bring them all together, bring the gap or the mental model, It really helps user to understand what happens instead of just screen by screen. So again, yeah, we are seeing more and more this kind of information, but we still need more of them. And then the second point I was trying to make on animation is it's actually, of course everybody knows performance is important. There's a study saying if users don't see your page load after 2 seconds, they start to think to leave to somewhere else. But there is the performance, and there's also the so-called perceived performance. So animation really helps to improve the perceived performance. So I'm using that is the Gmail, the loading GIF from Gmail. So when you first go to Gmail, it takes a little bit time. It's not too bad. But I do experience slowness when I'm here using VPN to Gmail. So then they start to show you this kind of envelope, kind of open, So what the user really, they instead of sitting there looking at a white screen, thinking, oh, I'm waiting for the email to load. They start to get kind of briefly engaged by this little animation. Oh, things just start to open. So it gained that time. So users don't perceive this as slowness. They perceive this as part of the interaction. So you basically gained something more like 1 second, 2 seconds by having some loading animation, for user to perceive a better performance. Again, this is not anything new. We are seeing that loading animation everywhere. I'm seeing that in Dangdang, in Jingdong, everywhere. It is a good sign. Yeah. The fun part. Actually, also amazed. That message I got is, a small dry cleaning store I use. And they sent me this message, which made me laugh. It's just so you feel like it is more like a person or something. You don't feel you are interacting with the code, serve, the other side. You just feel warm. So those kind of things just give people a better, it's a smiling, something, they smile at. So those are all part of good user experience. That's the innovative. This is the challenging part. Yeah. How innovative we can be, and if we should even, innovative itself is already not very easy. But even when we have innovative ideas, there are lots of other things actually stop us to do that immediately, especially when we work on a big software suite, application suite. So people said they like new things, they like innovation, but behind the scene, they actually don't behave that all the time. They hate things that already change their normal routine. Even that thing didn't work well before, but they already get used to it. So they are fine with it. And from that perspective, they hate any almost innovation you gave them that changed their daily routine. So at least that is something we perceived in some of the users. So we actually want to be very careful about when do we bring in innovation. Normally, again, if you look at this chart, there are those 4 blocks. We really want to make sure, we don't really go to that sure filler part. We actually do small incremental changes. The easy sell part, the easy sell block, and the we'll call smash hit. That is something we do. But for the long hauls part, even the innovation, but since innovation normally bring in significant behavior changes, we want to wait until maybe a major release, until we believe users are ready to uptake or accommodate those innovations. Because if you have innovations every small release, it's not going to work. You would get a lot of complaints because after the weekend, the system upgrade, things has changed. They need to learn new rules, even they are good rules, or even they are good designs or experience. They don't like that. Yeah. Let me see how much time I have. Yeah, so after the design, normally designers, UI designers deliver the design more like a screenshot, mock-up, sketch. We actually go into the prototyping phase. In Oracle, we do high fidelity prototyping, which is different from most other companies. They normally do a fast, easy prototyping just to show the concept, maybe test the concept. But what we learned is, sometimes, those easy, fast prototyping may not give us the real product. For example, if you have prototype, just a UI prototype that doesn't connect to the back end, it normally very fast, perform very well because there's no real backend data. So, then you test on users, of course, everybody like it, but then in the true reality, it's slow, it has all sorts of other things. So it doesn't really worth our effort to do the user testing, everything on top of a cheap prototype. So we do the real prototyping, and sometimes if design works, those prototyping code even go to the real product. So they just move the prototype code to the real product and become part of the productization. So that after the prototyping is done, yeah, again, this is normally a very high fidelity prototyping that connect to also to real backend data, everything we have. It just may not be that bulletproof as the real product, but we make sure we indeed have all necessary part there. And yeah, then, again, we come to another user testing. Like I mentioned, user research may not give us what user really want. To see users performing on some task itself gave us much more insight than asking them what you would do. They don't know, a lot of time they don't know what they would do if you just ask them. So we actually have those very fancy, how do you call this, like double mirror or single mirror, I forgot. Yeah, something you see in the movie when they have somebody in prison, Yeah, we have that. We have those labs. We have, in this picture, there's also engineering, UX engineering sitting in the room, but normally we have just the user sitting there. We give them real task for them to finish in the fixed time. And we could see their screen, where their cursor moves, what they tried to achieve to accomplish the task. And then, after, I think this may be pictured after the user finished their task, and we come in asking their overall feedback. Yeah, so this is the kind of testing really gave us information if our design works. If it doesn't, where the user actually struggles with. After this, you see, from those blocks, the testing, prototyping, design, even back to user research, we could do multiple iterations depending on how big, small the feature is. If we start something new, of course, it requires more time, more iterations. But after the user testing, after we prove, agree the design works to our own satisfaction, based on the user testing, we move to the design pattern development part. That is the part we actually trying to keep consistency. So those design patterns would be identified from the design, and then we make sure they apply to most of our product families. And then instead of giving those designs to individual product team, we have central team who actually develop patterns or layers that achieve those designs. Something, if you look at those screens, there's borders, the squares indicating, all those layers. So for the product family team, for the application developers, it's almost they don't need to do any real UI coding. They more like drag and drop, put those patterns and building blocks into their page, and they are responsible to connect to their own backend data. But the UI would come up, consistently across all the product families that we agree to follow the patterns. So that is how we achieve consistency in Oracle. Yeah, but again, things always have downside. Of course, people start to question patterns. They want to add things to the patterns to meet their own requirement. And then, of course, we also identify product pages that just don't fit in the design pattern. So they have to do something themselves. And then again, we also have rules like unless something would be used by 80% of our product pages, we don't put them into the pattern, because if we open that door, the pattern will grow, and to the extent that cannot be managed. So the last part is productization. Again, for this one, it's really just to apply the patterns, connect the data, and then QA. Before they package and deliver to the customers. And again, based on customer feedback, customer bugs, enhancement they logged, we need to conduct another, another round of user research for any new features, enhancement we do in our product. Yeah. I actually want to stop briefly here for any questions you may have. We'll have time to ask questions at the end. So what are the challenges for the UI interface, user experience? I perceive like I said, innovation is a tricky part. It actually sometimes conflict with consistency, conflict with established user behavior. So this brings back the previous slides. Let me go back to that. The one, actually this is a real story. This is Wikipedia. It has 2 billion users. So they, instead of as the common design axiom, putting the search button on top right, their first version, or the first maybe couple years, they have the search box on the bottom left. Of course, the initial users, they were confused. They couldn't find where to search. It's not very obvious, in the page. So after a while, they finally realized, okay, this is a mistake. We should follow the design axiom. So they did it. Everybody should be happy, right? No. Their user already get used to that search box they put there. So they even create a new Wikipedia page and have all users. You can still, go to that page and see how many complaints, how many people scream, They basically just put it back where it was. Yeah. I don't care if that is design axiom. If everybody else, do the search box on top right. I already get used to when I'm coming to Wikipedia, I come here bottom left to find the search box. So you see users' mental model, even they could establish their own user behavior just for one particular page or one particular product. After a while, they consider those as their own, axioms. So they don't want things to be changed. So we run into those situations also, we found some design doesn't work, but it's very hard to change because you change somebody would scream, you don't change other users would scream. So this is a kind of challenge we run into, So how to resolve that? We actually sometimes even have that kind of dual option. We let them opt in one level they are ready. But the downside is we actually for a long time until everybody opt in. We end up actually supporting both the same feature in both places or in both ways. So you can imagine that definitely has its own overhead. Yeah. Another part, the challenge for UX experience, a good UX experience is those user behavior. We said the design or user experience depend on technology, depend on user behavior. But again, user behavior, user intuition may be a constant, but user behavior changes. it changes with the technology, with the culture. So we have to be up to date with those changes, including the technology, including the human behavior. I can give you an example. For example, I don't know how many of you have that experience. You go to a mall, you see a big screen. So you just go there and start to tap, trying to find the directory of the mall. I did that personally several times just to find out that just a static screen. Only display pictures is not touch screen. But I don't feel bad. I feel awkward, but people who should be awkward or embarrassed should be those people who designed the screen, who doesn't have a touchable screen at this time. But you think this kind of human behavior is already established now. We expect things to be touchable. But 20 years ago, if I go to a mall and start to touch a screen, people would consider me crazy. What this woman is doing. Yeah, so those kind of behavior we need to constantly update ourselves with this kind of user behavior, so we can accommodate or update our design to fit those user behaviors. So yes, that does require us to keep up with the technologies. Future, what is our future? UI, user interface, or user experience. I think if mobile has defined the last 10 years for what we have, then machine learning will be the next, will dominate, or will change our life in the next decade. It does promote smart user interface. We already have some of those smart user interface. By that I mean, the user interface actually is more personalized. It knows what you like. It knows normally what you do. It knows the pattern you follow. It may know things that you don't even know yourself. It could be a little bit scary. Yeah, so they would have the application tailored to what you need, what you normally work, your pattern. So, it's more like a personal assistant instead of a code machine. So those are what we call smart user interface. Again, which we already have some. We'll just keep seeing more and more with the advance of machine learning. Voice user interface. It's, again, very obvious. Instead of going to C-Trip, Expedia, going through like 10 screens, input things, you could just talk to the computer. I want to go to Taishan, take train, 4 people, first or second weekend in April. That is what I plan to do. Right now, I cannot talk to my computer to achieve this, but I'm hoping I could do it very soon. Right now, I still need to go through steps. Yeah, but you can imagine, with I think Sarah and what they call the one like Amazon use Alexa. Yeah, we already see them, right? So it's not very far away before we actually really can talk to our computers. But don't get me wrong. Don't tell how I'm telling you anytime soon you can talk to your computer, say, finish my science project that is due tomorrow. I don't think anybody would make that work. Yeah. So this is something I definitely see would happen anytime from now. We already see some of them. Like you could add a calendar event just by talking to your phone. So we'll be there soon. Actually, there's a story I forgot to tell about this voice user interface. That was actually back to the challenging part. So, the good user experience need to keep updated with the technology. But it cannot be too ahead of technology. Because otherwise, you don't have the right technology, you don't even have the right people, the right user there to use your interface. So I did something, when I first joined Oracle 17 years ago. One of my projects was leading to a voice user interface back then. And you can imagine, voice recognition wasn't right. So I worked like 18 hours per day to train the voice recognition agent I had. It's a computer agent. And finally, I got it to work to some extent. It could recognize basic things without. But again, it's so cumbersome. When we use that to do the user testing, it just didn't have that smooth, voice interaction we were expecting to. And the user wasn't ready. They were not really, they felt so weird talking to something. And especially if that thing didn't recognize you. So we got some data, but we later found out, it's actually useless almost. Yeah. Technology is not there, people are not there, so that is the challenge I see for the right user experience. You have to be there in the right time. Cannot be too ahead, cannot be too behind. The next one, I think with voice user interface, you can imagine we may not need a big screen to interact. We don't need a page with a form, to fill in things. But we still need the screen because you still need to view things. You still need to look at things, pictures or other information. But with augmented reality, I believe we may be able to achieve a screenless stage. So you don't need a screen. So tomorrow when you go out, you may just need some small variables and you can talk to, you can view things from there. Yeah, that is that I would expect to maybe, give it more time. I don't see it ready yet, but that is also something we can look out in the next couple of years. I think with that, this is the end of my talk. And again, I welcome any questions, comments, or opinions, because as I said earlier, this is something you actually see or work or play with every day. So.
What specific types of products did you look at? I mean, what specific type of design did you have experience with?
I actually, myself, I'm not a designer background. I'm working on a more architectic role, oversee the whole flow I was showing, from the user research all the way to the production. But our company develops almost all kinds of application suite, application pages you can think of. We don't develop those websites or all application suite you can think of like retail, HR, CRM, ERP, even like learning school, like education, all those pages. We actually have the whole suite of applications, and that is bundled with our database. We actually kind of use that way to push our product because you buy database, it's easier to buy our applications because it's all integrated together. And to be honest, it's very hard for them to get rid of application even they don't like it. They bundle it together, they live with it almost forever. Yeah.
Is what is considered a good UI design a market specific or a culture specific?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Is what is considered a good UI, intuitive UI, market specific?
Market specific, a good UI.
Like, say if you targeting a certain market, right? Like European market, would it be different from like the Chinese market?
Oh, yeah, sure. First, if you ask me, forget about market. If you just ask me what is a good UI, think about Google. There are search box, there are search page, and Baidu also takes similar approach, right? It's just a search box that does everything, search. That actually fulfill all the user need requirements there. But then, for your question about specific market, yes, indeed, that is a tough one. For example, for most of our product, I believe the customers are target to US and the European. And it's less, it works in China, in Japan, in other languages. But I would say it has somehow downgraded experience because in Chinese, the language is very different. And not to mention in Japan, they even have like right to left order in some case, But in China, the language itself is not a Western language. So that creates a lot of new issues for us to fix. The same layout, the same design may not work perfectly when translated to Chinese. It does translate to all different languages we support, but just may not have that, superior experience when we design the application. Yeah. Please.
This is a conceptual question. I remember you mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, like Oracle is the biggest provider of a database.
Yes.
What does it mean, like, as a provider of a database?
So you just basically have a relational database engine that the big company would purchase. And we also have cloud service. You don't need to purchase the real database. You could just have your data management from cloud. So basically, I think everybody needs a database today, right? No matter it's retail, it's HR, they all need database. And Oracle is specialized for huge or something even bigger than huge, that kind of database. And MySQL is a little bit different. Oracle also owns MySQL, but they purchased that from Sun. MySQL, I think, is more targeted on medium business model, but Oracle relational database is targeted on big, giant database, giant business model. Yeah. So yeah, the company purchase database so they can use to manage their data.
So database is like a giant cloud?
It's a giant data. Somewhere you store your data. Like for example, all your student information, including your lunch money, it needs to be stored somewhere, right? So computer can retrieve them, okay, deduct the money, and then, do all sorts of things. Those all require database. Yeah. Go ahead.
What does it mean to be a database provider? Is it just like providing a cloud program, or do you
We
collect?
provide like the cloud service, something we manage your data, you pay the service fee. But we also have that, you purchase the whole system as a software, and you install it in your own server, and you manage your own data. But it is a big thing how to manage data efficiently, because you may have I don't know how many data you have, but to search a large database is not easy. To search in millisecond to get result is not trivial. So we do need those professional database in order to effectively save, retrieve data, manage data, all sorts of those tasks. Yeah.
You didn't mention about Microsoft Access database.
Sorry?
You didn't mention about Microsoft Access
Access.
database.
Do we have it? I actually got that myself. I don't really work much on database, but let me see. This one, do you see it somewhere? Microsoft has SQL Server. That from Microsoft.
Yeah. Could you please explain to them the differences between Microsoft Access Engine database and Oracle Engine database?
They are from what I know, they are both relational database.
Yeah.
So there's not much of the difference, except they may have specific features. One may be better than another, but I believe functional-wise they are very close. Yeah, they are all, even MySQL, they are all relational database. That is the concept from NetBase. And after that, I believe there are new database models, but none of them really, become the reality. I think today we are still relying on relational database. Yeah. Yeah, I think DB2 is from IBM. Yeah, SQL Server is from Microsoft. Oh, go ahead.
What is the arrows on this diagram mean? Provide the production?
I actually, to be honest, I don't know. Yeah. I think they may actually, I actually can go back and check. I think that there are some relations. You see a lot of them point to MySQL. MySQL is, I think it costs less. It's almost like free, but it definitely costs much less than Oracle. So that is why, a lot of medium-sized business or personal usage, they would use MySQL. So it could be MySQL just somehow maybe can coexist with other database. They just more friendly. Yeah. But yeah, again, I actually just took this picture, from internet because it gave me the market share of those database vendors. Yeah. I can double check what that means. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you UI designs for example, Windows, for Windows system, all the for example, close window is all on the right side. On the right top.
Yeah.
And for Apple, it's on the left side.
Yes.
I think these UI designs are used to develop.
Sorry, the last sentence I didn't get. Do you think what the last sentence I didn't get?
Oh, it's are UI design used also as a marketing strategy to establish certain user groups?
It could be. But for example, I think Apple may do something more innovative. They do have that, they can afford the innovation. The downside I brought up with innovation, right? Because they are famous being creative. iPhone changed, really it's a revolution change or how we use, cell phones. And of course, they introduce a lot of behavior change, but people are willing to adopt it. That is their strategy, overall strategy. Apple, yes, they didn't follow. It's hard to say they didn't follow because Apple actually have the machine even earlier than Microsoft. They are almost the first. I could be wrong, but they are the first almost like graphic UI provider. So it could be Microsoft decide, I want to do something differently, and Microsoft of course does that all the time. Thinking about IE, the browser, yeah. But normally for us, for Oracle as application provider, we try to follow those well-established axioms. I think we primarily right now we follow Windows model. Like I said, we have a lot of those navigation, key stuff on the right-hand side, like all Windows models. But who knows? But for example, that is another lesson we learned. I think 2005 or I think later than that. So after CSS3 is available, people could do cool things like drop shadow, round corner, all sorts of those fancy graphic parts. So our user really like, we want our graphic to be fancy, So we add a lot of code to make our UI dimension have some dimension with drop shadow, round corner, and what else? Those kind of things, which make our application very heavy. But then Apple actually, put out their iPad, iPod, all sorts of things with flat UI. And almost overnight, everybody changed to flat UI, and everybody liked the flat UI. They consider that is cool, more than what are we going to do with all our dimensionality, So we actually spent another almost 2 years to get rid of our dimensionality. So yes, those things impact people, and unless you are really an innovator like Apple who could lead the trend, those things have different impacts and it could be in a strategy. Yeah. Okay.
So you mentioned about smart UIs and how they might end up, knowing us more than we do, which kind of leads to a lot of concerns that people are raising about privacy and their personal information. So do you think that we will be able to reach a middle ground where these UIs are able to provide more convenient services for us while we still have protection over our privacy?
I would say yes. I think this is a good question. With advance of machine learning, the computer could actually know more than what we want the computer to know. So those things I think could be controlled by the application or software provider. And those things could be things we give to the user if you want to turn on or turn off. So if you feel you are comfortable to turning those smart agents, then you are okay. If you say, no, I don't want that to be smart, I don't want too smart, you can turn off those agents. That is possible, yeah. I think with user requirement saying that we want this to be configurable, technically we could do that. Yeah.
coming to support Science Week, deliver this amazing speech. She actually spent a lot of time just to make this PPT and prepare the speech. I'm really thankful for her. And also for you guys, we're also very thankful that you took your time to come here, pay attention, and have this amazing Q&A. We've never had a Q&A that long. A lot of amazing questions. And in the future, Scinex will continue to collaborate with the Parent Council to bring you with these amazing new lectures. And we hope to see you in these future lectures. You can go home now. Thank you. Thank you.